have made it to Victoria, Canada. Hello, are you taking a rest? Are they feeding you from the balcony? Please don't attack. You're so cute. You are so cute. Yes, you are. You're not scared of me at all. He's beautiful, Terry. Look at his fur. This is a Canadian seagull. I wish I had you something. Yeah, bye. Oh, you're coming to him? You have him
See if I've got anything to do.
I've never seen these air people at a port before. Hello! Welcome to Victoria, Canada. Our first time. We made it off the ship in Victoria, Canada. That was the longest line I have ever been through. It was like weaving through bars and the casino. So we're walking with the crowd. We're off the ship. We are going on a tour of O Canada Nightlight City Tour featuring TimBits. We gotta find our bus. We have made it on the bus in Victoria, Canada. Let's take our drink order.
The city of Victoria is way down here at the southern tip. And if you end up buying a souvenir magnet or sticker, make sure you put the island on an angle. Don't put it like this on your fridge or your car. This part of the island here actually goes along Washington State coast, right here and here. So if we drive along this side of the island, we can end up hitting the Washington cell phone towers, and we get, welcome to the United States. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Let me just get your drink order before you grab a seat. And I'm going to start opening these up here too, because we don't seem to have anybody with mobility challenges.
So we just come right here?
Sure, if you like. So coffee, tea, hot chocolate, or bottled water?
Water's fine.
We're all going to be leaving right on time here. You're all first timers here on Vancouver Island. And my name's Tracy. Your good looking driver up front here, that's Peter. Peter is in charge of your safety and comfort, so he will adjust the temperature for you if you find it's too hot or too cold. He also asks you, just wait Peter, He also asks you to make sure that you consider that in the province of British Columbia where you're at here today, we do have seatbelt laws. We're in a vehicle with seatbelts, so we are expected to wear them. There's a bit of a workout putting them on, and we'll also be doing a trivia game as part of your tour, so there will be some questions I might be asking you about Canadian information. You can head out anytime you're ready, sir. And I have some prizes. Now, everybody is going to actually end up with a prize by the time we're all said and done, because I also have a gift bag for you when we leave the bus this evening. So welcome to Victoria, everyone. Today you have arrived in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. We are the capital city of the province of British Columbia. Our city of Victoria is located on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people, the Songhees and the Esquimalt First Nations. And the name of our pier is called the Breakwater District at Ogden Point. If you look as we're leaving the pier here, because it'll be hard to see it at nighttime, but to the right of us, that is our breakwater, that concrete structure over in the distance there with a beautiful mural painted on it by artists from the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. And the name Ogden Point came from a gentleman by the name of Peter Ogden, who was an explorer and a trader with the Hudson Bay Company. And I'll be telling you lots about the Hudson Bay Company because they were actually key to establishing our city of Victoria. Now, long before any settlement happened from Europeans and Asians and others that came here to Vancouver Island was actually home to many indigenous groups for over 8,000 years. They were all throughout Vancouver Island. And as I mentioned, Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations they called this particular area home. Some of the early explorers that came to Vancouver Island included the Russians as well as the Spanish. They visited here in the 1500s and later in the late 1700s, but it was the British, following Spanish navigational charts, that came and explored Vancouver Island. A couple guys named Captains James Cook and Captain George Vancouver, and it's George Vancouver who Vancouver Island is named after, as well as the city of Vancouver, Washington, and Vancouver, British Columbia. Now, incidentally, Vancouver, British Columbia is not here on this island. It's over on the mainland, which is over to our right, and then north. What we see over there to our right, the land that we see to the right with those beautiful mountains, that's actually Washington State. So anywhere between 22 and 26 miles from our shoreline to the shoreline of the United States there. And those beautiful mountains that we see in the distance are the Olympic Mountain Range. The city of Port Angeles in Washington State is directly south of the city of Victoria. Now, Vancouver Island is actually a very, very large island. We're the largest island on the Pacific coast of North America, and we are the 43rd largest island in the world. We are, yeah, there has been some activity out there. I'm not 100% sure what's going on, but there's definitely appears to be some wildlife in the water there for sure. For sure. Pretty exciting. Anyways, Vancouver Island is a very large island, and you can't explore it all in one day. It would take you 8 hours just to drive from the city of Victoria here right up to the northern tip of Vancouver Island. And there is only the highway along the east coast of the island. You can't drive right around the whole island. There's access to the west coast cities just via inland roads that lead out to the west coast, and there's a small west coast highway as well at the southern tip of the island. Now, I've lived here since 1977. I came from the city of Edmonton, Alberta. Alberta is the next province over. By the way, Canada is made up of 10 provinces and 3 territories. We're in the westernmost province right now. So when I arrived here as a kid back in the 1970s, Grandpa told me that Victoria then was known as the home of the newlywed and the nearly dead. We have a very favorite retirement location. This is one of our many seniors retirement places that we have in the city. And the reason why Victoria is known as the home of the newlywed and the nearly dead is because we do have a beautiful climate here in our city. We actually have the mildest climate in Canada. It's not too hot, not too cold. For example, in our winter months, we rarely dip below freezing, and we get very little snow in the winter, unlike the rest of Canada, which can see a lot of snow, like my city of Edmonton, definitely a lot more snow. And the temperatures rarely dip below freezing. We'll have a couple weeks in the wintertime where the nighttime temperatures will go below freezing, but generally stays above freezing through the winter months. We get about 12 inches of snow throughout the winter months, but most of that will fall and melt in the same day. But we do get a lot of rain through the winter, from October right through till probably February, March. It's raining quite a lot. Now in the summer, our temperatures rarely go above mid-70s as well too. If we ever hit 80 degrees, we're complaining it's a bitterly hot day here in our city. Over to the left of us there's the mile zero marker that we're seeing. The mile zero marker indicates Douglas Street, the road we're going to be traveling on in just a moment. Is the start of our Trans-Canada Highway, which is one of the longest national highways in the world at 4,860 miles in length. And if you went right across our 10 provinces and arrived at the other side of our country in St. John's, Newfoundland, you'd find another mile zero marker there, because they like to start counting from the east coast and coming west. This beautiful park beside us, this is Beacon Hill Park. Beacon Hill Park is the crown jewel of parks here in the city of Victoria. About 200 acres of parkland, and it's filled with many beautiful trees and flower gardens, lots of sporting fields, lots of wildlife in here as well too, particularly the bird life. We have lots of ducks, and the Canada geese like to hang out in here as well too. But we also have a population of peacocks that live in our park. Approximately 40 adult peacocks that have been living in the park for a very long period of time. In fact, peacocks were imported to Vancouver Island back in the 1800s, and they're still thriving here today in Beacon Hill Park. Now you will also take a look to your right here. You're going to see a giant watering can that indicates that that's actually a children's water park there, but it's also kind of an identification that Victoria is also recognized as the city of gardens. We got some beautiful trees still in bloom here, some rhododendrons that are still finishing up their blooming, and all around Victoria we have flowers that start here in the city as early as February, and by March we're covered in flowers. We like to call ourselves the best blooming city in Canada. Now if you can do a little slow down by the lake there too, that place is sweet. Now just coming up on our right hand side, we're going to see one of the many lakes that's part of Beacon Hill Park. This one's called Good Acre Lake. The trees are getting pretty thick right now, so you'll just have to glance in between the trees. You might get a bit of a look at this beautiful lake there, and in the distance, check out, you might see that stone bridge back there as well too. That's all part of the landscape design of Beacon Hill Park from 1889. Now I mentioned the Hudson Bay Company. So Hudson Bay Company arrived here on Vancouver Island in 1842. They were looking for a new location for their fort. They had a fort down in Vancouver, Washington. They're a British company, and they actually had to find a new location because there were some discussions happening between the British and the Americans about where to draw the dividing line between British held territory and American held territory. And they knew Vancouver, Washington was likely going to be in British held territory. So because Captain James Cook and George Vancouver had claimed this island for a colony for Great Britain, they sailed up here, established a fort and a trading post not far from where we are today. But they also had a mandate to establish a British settlement. It took them a very long time to get that going. They were very much interested in their actual business, which was that of trading with the indigenous peoples for the furs that would be harvested by the indigenous peoples, and they also extracted resources from Vancouver Island such as lumber and coal. Now, the chief actor for Hudson Bay Company was a fellow by the name of James Douglas, and the street we're on here right now, Douglas Street, as well as the community that we're in Victoria, James Bay, is all named after James Douglas. If you look over to our left as we're going by here too, you might be able to see some of the beautiful replica totem poles we have that are right in the park beside us here. This is all part of the Royal British Columbia Museum. Now, Victoria in the early days had a fort and a trading post. It was a pretty rough and ready kind of community, mostly covered in trees. It wasn't even Victoria. It was called Fort Victoria, named after the Queen. But there was only a few hundred people living here for a very long period of time, and just a whole lot of trees. And the fort was located along the waterfront. It doesn't exist here today. It was torn down in 1864, but well, I'll point out where the fort location was. The idea that they were supposed to have a city here, a British settlement here, took a long time to happen because it was really hard to attract people to come from England to come here. But what happened was a gold rush happened in 1858, which attracted a whole lot of folks to Vancouver Island. First of all, the gold rush was in the interior of our province, and you know, gold had been a big thing down in California, and gold fever was still rampant. And once gold was discovered up this direction here, we went from a population of 500 living at the fort to about 30,000 within a matter of a couple months. So the look of this area changed quite drastically, and a lot of small wooden buildings were brought up, and lots of pubs and taverns to entertain all those would-be miners. Now, the city of Victoria has transformed quite drastically. This is our main commercial street now. The main commercial street used to be along the waterfront here, but Douglas Street is the main commercial street now, and we've got a good eclectic mix of both old and new buildings you're going to see as we drive along. Some of the new buildings obviously are significantly taller than the older ones. The old ones are between 4 and 6 stories in height. Now, if you can also do a little slowdown for us, Peter, just at this next road, I'd like to point out the church that we can see from the street here. There's a section of Victoria that has a beautiful selection of older churches. Those of you on the left-hand side, you might see St. Andrew's Presbyterian coming up here. But if you look down Courtney Street, down to the right, way down about 3 blocks down there, you see the beautiful Christ Church Cathedral in the distance there. There is a section of Victoria with a lot of historic churches. And we also have some pubs. This was the pub district in Victoria for those miners along here, as well as down in the next couple blocks. And of course, St. Andrew's Presbyterian here on our left-hand side. Thank you, Peter.
That's pretty.
Down now.
Got it.
Very good. Yeah, just give her to our coffee's going to get cold. Now, as we drive along, there's lots of interesting buildings to check out, and one of the ones that we won't see here, like I said today, is the Fort. But Fort Street, the next street up, indicates the direction as to where the fort would have been. So down to the left, one block up and down to the left would have been the location for the fort, and along the waterfront, and up to the right would have been the trail that would have led out of the fort. So if you can imagine Victoria in its early days, there would have been just lots of wooden buildings, lots of dirt, lots of mud, lots of rain in the wintertime, so it would have been a pretty challenging place to be. But as the city grew and developed and prospered, we got cars eventually, and roads were a lot more stable, and the little less problems with all the dust and all the challenges that way. We got most of you from the United States here? Yeah. One of the things that's an observation, a lot of my American guests know that we have a lot of U.S. restaurants here, including McDonald's. But if you check out the golden arches under McDonald's, there's a little Canadian flag at the bottom here. Now, there's many architects that came to our city of Victoria and were responsible for developing a lot of great buildings that are in our city. But there's a particular fellow by the name of Francis Rattenbury who came here in 1892 at the age of 25, and he won an architectural competition to design our government building. There were 67 architects that applied, and Francis was declared the winner. He went on to design many other beautiful buildings that are the iconic buildings we're going to see downtown. But he was also the one that designed the bank building beside us here. But Francis designed the government building, the steamship terminal, as well as the beautiful Empress Hotel that are all along the waterfront there. Now we got another historic building coming up on our left-hand side here. Some people mistake it as a church, but this is actually our historic city hall. That was established back in the 1800s and still runs as our city hall here today. And it's located directly across from a very modern-looking building on the right-hand side, which if we went up to the top floor of that building, we'd find one of our many information technology firms that is here in the city of Victoria. Some people wonder about our current economy. We obviously had a fort and a trading post to start us off here in terms of settlement, but what's happening nowadays is Vancouver Island, certainly an area for tourism. We have a high number of government employees here because our city of Victoria is the capital of the province of British Columbia. But our actual number one industry now in our city is information technologies. There's more than 100 information technology companies that have come here to make Victoria home. And I think that's because we're at a great location, close to the United States as well as close to the Asian market. You also notice a lot of bike lanes here in our city. The green paint we saw just at that last road gives us an indication of where there's a right-of-way for the cyclists in that particular stretch. Now, one more historic building to point out to you just on the right-hand side. This was the former Hudson Bay department store. This building was built between 1914 and 1921. And nowadays it's the Victoria Public Market as well as a high-end condo called the Hudson. But when it first came up, it was actually the original department store for Hudson Bay Company here in Victoria. Once they shut down trading posts across the country, Hudson Bay started developing department stores, and our department stores are actually designed after a well-known British store called Harrods. So when this store opened up, it was state-of-the-art building, and shoppers of the day were quite fascinated with what they could find there. But this is a good example of what's happening to a lot of our historic buildings as well too. They are being converted into other uses. Now, has anybody been to a Tim Hortons coffee shop before? We have a whole bunch of newbies for this one. I've had sometimes lots of enthusiasm like, oh yeah, I love Tim Hortons. All right, Tim Hortons. It's like, you're in for a treat. Tim Hortons is the favorite coffee shop in Canada. And I think I only had one coffee order though. Most of you have ordered either bottled water or hot chocolate. Hot chocolate's good too. The Tim Hortons was started by a hockey player, a gentleman by the name of Miles Gilbert Horton. He played for the National Hockey League for 24 seasons. He played for the majority of his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then he played for the Pittsburgh Penguins, the New York Rangers, and the Buffalo Sabres. Now, Tim started in 1949, and in the early days, hockey players did not make the same kind of massive contracts that they do today. So Tim had to take up some other work to make ends meet. Tim was an entrepreneur. He started a hamburger shop in 1960, but 1964 in Hamilton, Ontario is where he opened his very first coffee and donut shop. And my mom says if you own a Tim Hortons coffee shop in Canada, it's like you have a license to print money, because they're very, very popular here in the city, or in the country. Soon enough, he had many, many more Tim Hortons locations that were opening up. And soon people were actually recognizing Tim more for his coffee and donuts than for his hockey playing skills. However, Tim was a great hockey player and is recognized by the NHL as one of the top 100 players of the first 100 years of the league. And unfortunately, Tim died at a young age in 1974, but his business partner continued on with the brand and with the restaurants and continued expanding. Eventually, our Tim Hortons chain was purchased by another organization called Restaurant Brands International. They also own the Burger King restaurants, and their goal was to take our Canadian coffee shop worldwide. So we started off down in the United States with about 900 locations down in the U.S., including, I've heard that there's about 77 in Buffalo, which is the city where Tim last played hockey. And we're also in about 13 countries around the world. In addition to your beverage this evening, you're going to also get a snack. So it's a assorted bag of TimBits, little mini donut holes. There'll be a 4-pack there for you.
It doesn't look like what I thought.
You can just go right alongside, maybe not blocking the white car off there, but then that's kind of where we do is sort of the left-hand side there.
Sounds good.
That works for you?
You betcha.
So once Peter gets a place to park, what we'll do is we'll be heading inside the Tim Hortons there. Scott's got the door open there for us, and his team has got our beverage and snacks all ready to go. And this is a grab-and-go situation. We're not going to be staying inside the coffee shop because you didn't pay to just go to a coffee shop.
Go first, Tim Hortons. We got it. Tim Hortons. We got TimBits, little donut holes, and hot chocolate. They gave us a choice of coffee, water, or hot chocolate. Me and the hubs got hot chocolate. What's in your bag? Oh no! Thank goodness it wasn't open. Oh, we got a variety.
Some people who just are so enthusiastic. That's okay. Okay, for your very first prize, which is a magnet, can somebody tell me the name of the capital city of the province of British Columbia? Look at you guys, are so nice and proud. You were right over here. Victoria. Yes. So you were paying attention. Very good. Okay, how about the name of the island that you're on here? I'm going to go back further here. Right here. This lady right here. Yes. Vancouver is correct. Very good. Very good. Some people call it Victoria Island. That is wrong. All right, this one you might have, I said it quick, so you really have to be paying attention here. How many provinces and territories does Canada have? We're going to go right up front here.
10 and 3.
10 and 3, excellent. And this is something for you to remember all of them by, too. 10 and 3, that was great.
Yay.
All right, I got this fun
sure
magnet that's got, kind of looks like Hudson Bay Company, kind of esque. But for this one,
Magnet.
can you tell me what is the name of the Canadian National Police Force? Oh, go ahead. Mounties is good enough. Mounties is the answer I had, which is good enough. Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Alrighty, and one final question again. If you were paying attention to our dear Tim Hortons, can you tell me the name of, this is a little keychain. Can you tell me the name of the hockey team that he played the majority of his career with? I'm gonna go with somebody else.
Hot.
You know,
Sorry, not chocolate. I get a
you are a
magnet.
trivia game person, right? Yeah.
I never won anything.
So this is supposed to be a night lights tour, but obviously the sun is setting later and later, so we are going to have a bit of dusk as well as the night lights. Sunset was at 9 o'clock tonight. And just ignore this clock up here. It's doing weird things. Like I've seen it now changed a few times, doing something strange. And so I just, yeah, look at that. Or just it's cycling through all sorts of time zones, I guess. Now, I've lived here, like I said, since 1977. I met my husband here on Vancouver Island in 1985. Fine young man who came to join the Canadian Navy. He was in the Navy for 27 years. And he came from the east coast of Canada. We got married as very young people. I was only 20 and he was 23. And I said, honey, we should buy a house when we can afford it, because I watched the housing prices go up and down, and it's really good right now, about $100,000. And he said, I'll never pay $100,000 for a house, because in Glace Bay, Nova Scotia at that time was about $25,000. And of course, we couldn't afford to put down a down payment anyways for a $100,000 house. Took us a long time. By the time we bought a house in 1999, it was $250,000. So he was absolutely right. We never would pay $100,000 for a house. Over to the right of us here, we got a beautiful building. Not Wendy's, she's beautiful too. But this one over here to the right, this is the Bay Street Armory. This is a militia building. Counted about 100 militia buildings right across the country. They're in an active phase that lasted about 20 years. This one was built in 1915, and it's home to our Canadian Scottish Regiment. And some people are curious, why a Scottish regiment? Well, the Hudson Bay Company ship, when it arrived here, had many English and Scottish folks aboard, and a lot of them stayed and settled in what would eventually become the city of Victoria. So a lot of the folks that are here for many generations can actually trace their British heritage back a number of generations. Just to the right of us here, the Save-On Foods Memorial Arena. That is our local hockey arena, home to the Victoria Royals Hockey Club. And it's also a great place for concerts. We got Bryan Adams, a great Canadian rocker who's going to be playing in September. I was privileged to actually see another great concert here in March. Jelly Roll did his cross-Canada tour starting off in Victoria. It was a fabulous concert. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I just loved it. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, we have a lot of variety that happens here, and so it's really good. The Save-On Foods is obviously the sponsor for the arena. When I was a kid, this was just the Memorial Arena. And when we're coming up here on the right-hand side here, if you check out the buildings that are coming up on the right, there's some information or sort of interesting pictures over here. Those are actually symbols that are kind of related to the Hudson Bay Company there. This is all called the Hudson District. And if you see inside the alcove here, you'll see the old symbol for the Hudson Bay Company. And Peter, when we get around the corner there and just go by the bay, can we slow down a little bit at the 770 Discard sign there? So I'd like to point out the old Bay Company logo is in there still as well. For those of you not familiar with the Hudson Bay Company, they actually date back to 1670. And they were a fur trading company that opened up a lot of North America. At one point in time, they had access to about a third of North America, and there were sports all across what is nowadays Canada and the United States. And they traded with the indigenous peoples for furs. The beaver pelt in particular was highly coveted back in Europe. And if you take a look underneath this 770 Discard sign on our right-hand side, now you can see the logo for that Hudson Bay Company. Now, unfortunately, the Hudson Bay Company has fallen victim like some of the big retailers of the day, and in 2025 they will be closing up shop. But I just heard rumors that our local Chinese billionaire is going to be purchasing about 25 of the former Hudson Bay stores, and there's a number of other people who are vying for a number of the other stores. So the stores will hopefully thrive, and our Canadian Tire has also purchased the rights to the logo and everything, so Hudson Bay will continue to live on in another form. Now, as we head down this direction, we're going to go into Chinatown in Victoria. Chinatown was established in 1858 at the beginning of that gold rush. So when we had our first shipload of people arriving here, we had folks coming up from San Francisco, including Chinese businessmen who established the Chinatown here, which is now the longest running Chinatown in Canada. On the left-hand side, we have this beautiful mural of a Chinese family. And they're looking across to the right-hand side, we have the beautiful Chinese school that was opened up in 1903. And if you look straight out front of the bus windows right now, you're going to see the Gates of Harmonious Interest. This is a refurbishment project to Chinatown that was done in 1981. On the left and the right hand side of the gates, you'll see these two carved stone lions that were gifts from our sister city in China, Suzhou. There's also engraved on one of the pillars here, the red pillars, all the names of the Chinese men from this community who fought during World War II. And look, we're getting the lights coming on here. We got the beautiful lanterns across the street here, all lit up.
That is so
And Peter's doing a nice slowdown for us here as well too, because coming up on the left-hand side is a very narrow passageway. It's called Fantan Alley. It's considered the narrowest street in Canada, but it's actually tucked in between these two buildings on the left-hand side right now. It's only 39 inches wide. There's a gate across there right now because it's to protect the businesses and the residences that live down there. But it is only 39 inches. It's got Harry Potter-like addresses as well, like 13 and a half on the residential addresses. It's kind of fun. And we got Dragon Alley on the right, and we have Theater Alley. That'll be over here to our left. Lots of little alleyways with interesting things to explore in Chinatown. We also have, in this part of the city, all the beautiful red brick buildings. And when we're in Victoria, in the red brick building area, this is the area that we refer to as Old Town. So the first buildings that came up would have been wooden buildings with the fort and even the early days of the development of the city. But these beautiful red brick buildings started coming up in about the 1860s, and there is one building down to our right that dates back to right back to 1860.
Look at that.
So warehouse buildings that go right down to the right. And in this area as well of town, this is where a lot of the old buildings have been refurbished from their original purpose to something new and modern. And they've been completely upgraded as well too, to make sure that they're up to modern standards as well for technology and earthquake standards. This building over here on our left-hand side, this is called Swan's Pub and Hotel. It was formerly a seed and grain warehouse. And the one on the right-hand side is a small unit condo building, but back in 1901, it was a hotel building. This is a great spot where you can really get a sense of how much cycling infrastructure we have in the city as well too. Our narrow streets have been made even narrower, so it's really challenging for the bus drivers, especially when we have two buses on the other side of the street or a big commercial vehicle. And we also have lots of lights happening here, so even separate lights for the intersection for the cyclists. It took a while for the cyclists and the drivers to catch on to all these different lights and the new rules where we can't turn right on a red light, which is normally in Canada you can, but when we have these cycling lanes with advanced lights, you can't turn right. And we're about to go across a beautiful modern bridge as well too. It's called the Johnson Street Bridge. It's the fourth bridge to be built across the water to join the inner harbor to the upper harbor. And this is a swing bridge. It lifts up and allows marine traffic to flow through. As we're going through the intersection here too, on the left you'll get a look at the Commerce Canoe. We'll see this again if you miss it, but the Commerce Canoe is just over here on the left. If you remember, Francis Rattenberry mentioned this very talented young man who came to Canada from England, Bournemouth, England in 1892, and designed our government building. It's a government building we're very proud of today. It's all lit up with beautiful lights. It's quite one of the most spectacular sights we see in the downtown core. It's just over on the left-hand side now in the distance. It looks kind of like a castle there. 3,600 lights lighted up at night. It's been lit up since 1898. Which is the year when Queen Victoria was celebrating her 60th year on the throne of England.
That's cool.
Now, our city of Victoria is actually a fairly small city, only 94,000 maybe around that population for the city of Victoria. But Victoria is made up of 13 individual municipalities, which are just one right after the other. We have the city of Esquimalt coming up in front of us, which we won't be going through, but city of Esquimalt is one of those 13 municipalities. When we include all 13, our population comes to around 400,000. Here on the island, we have just over 900,000, so we're actually a little bit higher in population on Vancouver Island than the whole state of Alaska. And this particular community we're driving through right now, this is called the Songhees development. The Songhees First Nations, remember, where this was their land before the arrival of the Hudson Bay Company. The Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations still live here on the land today. There is a reservation area on the other side of the city of Esquimalt, but the first reservation land for the Songhees people was actually right here in this particular part of the city. But the British decided this was a good spot for development, so they moved the reservation to the other side of the city of Esquimalt. The Songhees people, incidentally, as well, are known in Victoria for offering tours as well. They have a great tourism business that is running out of our downtown core, and it's quite interesting to hear the perspective when you go on a tour with a Songhees person, because lots of the stories that they tell are very much in reflection of their culture and the land uses that their people would have used this area for, and not of the European interpretations we have of history that is here. Now, just also giving you perspective as to where you're at in the city, we're going to be parking here. We're right beside what's called the Inner Harbor. It's all part of the Pacific Ocean, and your cruise ship is actually just off on the distance on the other side of the buildings over there. When we are stopped, we usually can see the tail of your ship in the distance, so we'll see if we can spot it when we get a parking spot here. That was a great spot for stepping off the bus and getting some photos. We're gonna have a nice little stop here for a few minutes while you stretch your legs, grab some photos. I recommend heading up this direction here. There is the remnants of what was at once a really tall totem pole just right at the point here. There's also a sidewalk you can take if you want.
I want the Parliament building over here.
Yeah, I knew you would.
I figure this is so neat. You know what? There's this part of the totem pole. See the thing sticking out? Oh man, look at this. That's neat seeing the. I hear a dog. Where did the whale tail go? There it is. I like how it's lit up. Look at these rocks. Yeah, there it is. Wonder what side we're gonna be on. Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's Victoria, Canada. You want to walk down and see the totem pole?
Yep.
So what did these rocks, I mean, they're just everywhere, aren't they? I'll walk down the path to see the totem pole. There it is. It's nice here. Spirit of the Letwungan Nation. This is Victoria, Canada. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. It is the capital. Hello there. Canadian ducks.
Come on, get a picture.
Got to.
On TimBits.
John, I finally got that totem pole up there.
Not Krispy Kreme, but it's good. Eating another one. This one is a cake one, and I think it's pumpkin because it has spice. It's good. It's not as good as Krispy Kreme, but it is so much better than Dunkin' Donuts. I like this. If I ever come back, I'm visiting you, Tim Hortons, and I'm gonna get me some more TimBits. Thank you. There's our bus. We're in the third row. Oh, I see the whale tail. That's so cool.
So how many are from the United States? All right, let's do it the other way. How many are not from the United States?
Oh wait. I'm from the United States. I got confused.
13 carvers from a tree when it was felled that was 500 years of age. The totem pole has been here since 1994. It was erected to celebrate the hosting of the Commonwealth Games here in Victoria. And I believe it was like 180 feet in height, which is a very massive tall totem pole. And for some reason, they didn't think about the impact it might have on the planes. Flying into the inner harbor there was a bit of an impediment. So after the games, they cut the totem pole into 4 individual pieces to remain here to our further up island. And beautiful pole. Now, the other thing I'm going to point out to you as we come through this intersection here in just a second, you're going to feel some clunking as the bus drives over the railroad tracks that are still here in the city. This is called the E and N Railway. This is the Esquimalt and Nanaimo Railway. Our city of Esquimalt is a harbor city down to the left of us where we have our Canadian military, but it used to be the main harbor as well too for the British ships that were bringing goods into and out of the island. And Nanaimo is a city that's about a third of the way up the island. So the N Railway was originally built to bring resources such as lumber and coal from further up island down to our port of Esquimalt so it could be shipped off. Some of it went down to San Francisco and a lot of it went back to England as well too. Now that railway was active right up until 2012. It had become a passenger rail service primarily, and they noticed some issues with the tracks and they said, stand by, we're going to fix up the tracks for you and we'll have that train up and running again. And we are still waiting. Now what we're hearing is that they do surveys every couple of years to see what's going to cost more to fix up the tracks or to tear them down. Another good look at the beautiful government building in the distance as we go over the bridge. Take note here, this is the swing bridge. Like I said, it will lift up and allow marine traffic to go over to the left side here, which is our industrial side of the harbor. That waterway actually flows back another 5 miles. It's called the Gorge Waterway, and it's been a very popular and important waterway for ever since people were inhabiting this land. And those of you who missed the canoe over here, it'll be on our left-hand side now, the Commerce Canoe. That is actually in recognition of our indigenous peoples that live here and their form of transportation and trade. Now, the road we were just on back there, that's called Store Street. As we go through the intersection, this is Wharf Street. Victoria really loves to change street names at intersections. It happens in all of our municipalities. Along Wharf Street, we'll find a lot of the warehouse buildings that were here in the early days after the fort came down, and we had a lot of shipping still happening here, a lot of warehouse buildings that were in here. They've now, a lot of them have been converted to other purposes. Most of them are restaurants in this particular part of the city. In fact, per capita, our city of Victoria has more restaurants than any other city in Canada. And between the local and Darcy's Pub, on our left-hand side, there's a square here called Bastion Square. Bastion Square is a historic square, a lot of beautiful old buildings in here.
Ooh,
but the bastion, or the fort, look at the tower for the fort, would have been located here. And the fort would have been on our left-hand side where these buildings are now. And along the waterfront would have been the trading post where we now have a marina down there. And you might see a float plane or two out in the harbor as well too. That is our float plane airport. That is an airport that has planes coming in both from Washington State as well as from our mainland, from Vancouver. And we got this beautiful red building on the corner with the white bricks on the side. This is one of our many customs house buildings. And we're getting a better look now at our government building. We'll be coming up to it very shortly as well too. But if you look from where we're at now, the building to the right of our government building along the waterfront there with the columns, that is the steamship terminal. That was also another Francis Rattenberry designed building that welcomed ships from around the world right up until 1978. Nowadays, it actually welcomes a ship from Seattle. The Clipper is now parking right at that particular building these days. And as we make this next corner, we're going to see our beautiful Empress Hotel. Now, imagine, if you will, Victoria in its early days with the fort just in behind us, and the water for James Bay actually flowed back about 3 blocks further than it does today. And the two sides of the harbor were joined by a bridge that went across the waterway. In 1901, there was a concrete wall that was put up, and the old mud flats were all filled in. The road was established, and we had the beginnings of this beautiful hotel coming up. 200 timbers were put down, and by 1908 we saw the first part of the Empress Hotel under completion. The Empress Hotel was built in phases though, so the wings we see to the left here were added on in later phases. Now you might have seen, because you haven't visited our city before, you might have seen pictures of the Empress Hotel. I think some of the pictures you see will still show it covered in ivy. Nowadays, the ivy has all been taken down. In 2014, when the Bosa family purchased the Empress Hotel, they did a massive renovation to bring it back to its original grandeur. And they took down all the ivy that was covering the hotel because it looked really cool, but it's very destructive to a brick building. They had to patch up all those old bricks, and they had to get rid of a whole bunch of creatures that were living up there in the ivy, including a family of raccoons. And we also have a kitty corner to us. As we make the next corner, just look left, right. We've got a bit of a spiral looking staircase coming up here. That's a bell tower. That's called the Netherlands Carillon. That was a gift from the people of the Netherlands to Canada in 1967. It rings every hour on the hour. And right up front here now we see the government building. We're going to be passing on by just a moment, and on the left hand side we have our war memorial, and we have a giant sequoia tree that dates back to the 1860s in the center here, right along the water, right along the road front. But as we go past, you'll also see the statue of Queen Victoria. She's just to the left of the tree as we're looking there. Queen Victoria, of course, was the reigning monarch who our city of Victoria is named after. Now just to the right, this is the new location for the Clipper that comes over from Seattle. And if you look on the side of our steamship terminal building, about 2/3 of the way up, just under the dentals, you see those faces there? It's the image of Poseidon on both the end as well as the Belleville Street side beside us here as well. Our beautiful downtown. Of course, someone was noting there's like, it's all condos and apartment buildings here. That is true. There is a little bit of a residential area in the James Bay area, but most of downtown Victoria is definitely condos and apartments. But as you get onto the other side of the beautiful parks that we saw, you get into a residential neighborhood. This beside us to the right, this is actually another ferry terminal. This one is not for the Clipper, but this is for the Blackball ferry that comes over from Port Angeles. It's a 90-minute ferry ride to get over to Port Angeles, and this is the only downtown car and passenger service. We have car and passenger ferries that go from the cities of Sydney as well as Nanaimo on our island. There's no bridge to get over to the mainland, so the only way on and off the island is by a ship or by airplane. Or if you're really brave, you can swim over, but it's cold water. I wouldn't recommend it. To the left of us, that is Pendray Manor. Now that currently is a restaurant as well as accommodation, but that is a beautiful history. William, as well as a soapworks factory in the early days of the city of Victoria. And you'll see some of the residential homes here just on our left-hand side. We're now back in the heart of the James Bay community. About 10,000 people live in this area, but James Bay is actually a significant percentage of the people who live here. But I believe the number I read was 65% are actually renters here. A very small number of people who own either the condos or the homes that are in this particular part of the city. So as we go along here, lots more condos and lots of hotel buildings as well too. So if you do plan to come back and maybe visit and stay a little longer, lots of spots for you to find a place to stay right in the downtown core. There's another lovely historic building coming up on the left-hand side. It's right at the corner here. It's currently a restaurant, just like downtown. A lot of those old buildings converted to restaurants. But Il Covo, which is the restaurant, this particular building has had many different purposes. It's been a residential building, it's been a commercial building, but it was originally built as a Connaught Seamen's Institute. It was built as a Christian-run accommodation, a safe haven for sailors coming into our port. Kind of during the days of the temperance movement, looking for a place that might have been away from the bars and the pub scene. And on the right-hand side, this area is all called Fisherman's Wharf. Down at the wharf, we have our active fishing fleet. We also have a number of colorful float homes down at Fisherman's Wharf. We have families that live there all year round. And we have a lovely community park with a garden area on the end corner here. This is actually maintained by residents of the James Bay neighborhood. In the summertime, residents can actually come pick fresh herbs and fresh veggies in that particular garden spot. Now, one of our fish and chip restaurants here on our left-hand side, finest at sea. There's also Barb's Fish and Chips on the waterfront. Lots of seafood restaurants here in Victoria, but those particular restaurants, they have their own ships coming into the wharf just a few feet away, so your fresh catch is just within. You can see how far away it's coming from. And on the corner, as we make this next corner here, we are at the Canadian Coast Guard Station. Now, we stayed within the city of Victoria on our entire tour today, but remember there are 13 other municipalities. In that municipality of Esquimalt, we see the lights of Esquimalt just across the waterway from us right now. And Esquimalt is where, of course, our Pacific Naval Base is for Canada. We have two Navy bases, one here in Esquimalt and one over in the city of Halifax on the east coast. Esquimalt is known to have one of the best natural harbors on the whole Pacific side of North America, and the British recognized the value of the Esquimalt harbor. They moved their main Pacific fleet in the 1800s from their base in Valparaiso, Chile, up to Esquimalt in the 1860s. In fact, the British Navy stayed here right until 1910 when Canada officially has started their own navy right here in the country. And we are back to your home away from home. We're at the cruise ship terminal now, when we see the whale tail a little closer up, not in the distance any longer. Thank you guys very much for joining us on our tour today and stepping off the ship and getting a little bit of a Canadian experience. Is this the first time for Canada for any of you?
Yeah.
Whoa. Well, thank you for coming to visit us in Canada, eh? We don't really say that very much, at least not on this side of the coast, but or of the country, but I'll throw that in for you. You have a little bit of time before you walk back aboard the ship. If you want to do a little bit of shopping, we have a great gift shop here that'll be coming up on the right hand side. It's called the Beaver Gift Shop. If you look at that building with the red awning, that's at the front of the building, you see an open sign, that's where the gift shop is. And you actually have to come to the front of that building, around to the other side where you see all those lights and the tents there, because that's the side of the building you have to enter closest to your cruise ship to get back aboard. Now, if you wish to show your appreciation, Peter and I most graciously accept. I do have presents for every one of you as you leave my bus today. It's gonna look kind of like another TimBits bag, but it's not more TimBits, but it is Canadian treats that are included in the bag, including a little bottle of Canadian maple syrup, and all the items that are inside that bag are cleared for you to be brought back through customs. No one's gonna take that bag. Don't let them take your bag away from you. That's your bag to keep. If you have any more items to dispose of, we'll have that box out front where you can toss out any last minute coffee cups or those TimBits bags. And just please take a look around you. Make sure you collect all your items you brought on board with you. Don't forget anything of importance behind. Have safe travels home. Hopefully some of you might be able to continue to travel a little bit, but I suspect for most of you tomorrow is the end of the vacation, back to eating just 3 meals a day, making your own meals and all that. I know it's tough to leave cruise ship life. I've done it many a time before, and it's quite an enjoyable experience to be on a cruise ship.
Next time we're on the outside of this cruise ship, we will be back in Seattle, and I will be sad. Not that big a crowd getting back on as it was getting off. Oh man, Canada. Now I'm ready to go to Epcot and go to Canada and sing that song. Canada, my Canada. Oh, Canada. I don't know the words when you Nations.
Yeah,
How'd you like it?
it was interesting. I enjoyed it. I like seeing the old buildings.
I want to come back and go through Chinatown. That looked amazing.
Yeah, that looked really neat.
And those burgers, they had all kind of burgers.
Especially the old school.
Oh yeah. All right, our hair's blowing straight up.
Yeah.
Hey guys, the little souvenir bag that they talk about is a little brown bag that they give you at the end of the tour, where you get a hard candy piece of, I think it is maple flavored. We haven't tried it yet. You get maple syrup, cheesies, Smarties, these are made by Nestle. They're not like our Smarties here. And you get a magnet. This was mine, and this is what the husband got. My grands have already ate my candy and tried these. But the hub saved his. But anyways, that's what you get on the Victoria Nightlight Tour with TimBits. Other than the stop at TimBits where you get hot chocolate, water, or coffee, and the little bag of donut holes. This is what you get. If you don't want to stay on the ship, and for that couple of hours that you are there, I think this tour is worth it.